All right. Well, it's been a while since I've made a video. Kind of did a video based on somebody, my brother actually, put up a meme about Spider-Man, and I put down my top 10 list of what I think is going to happen on Spider-Man. Soon after I did that, they released Marvel released a teaser trailer, and many of the things that I suggested would happen in the movie show up in that trailer. So I think that's funny. Having absolutely no pre-knowledge at all, I kind of made some predictions. I've watched some of the trailers for the upcoming Eternals. Eternals are a pretty good, a pretty good movie or a pretty good comic book series. I do think that this is mostly going to be based on the Neil Gaiman comic book, which in all reality is a great comic book. If you get the chance to read that series, that comic book series, I would jump at it. Now, I haven't made a top 10 list. I think I'm going to, but I just kind of want to just talk about it real quick and then hit some of the other things that have happened. I haven't made any videos on What If, and I'll be honest, What If is probably my favorite comic book series. I really like What If. So I like to read, so I read every comic book that comes out, and it's kind of harder to keep track of it now, but especially 70s, 80s, 90s comics, I read all of them, even the ones I didn't like. But What If would take some of the series that I didn't like, so I would just halfway read them, and it would change something and make me interested, and then I'd hop into that series, that comic book series, and read it because of What If. And some of those great ones are, What If Spider-Man, and What If Wolverine, or even the Avengers. Like, I really never particularly liked the Avengers comic book series. I always thought it was, I don't know, kind of same thing. I didn't like the Justice League comic book series. It was almost like the A-list comic books prop up the B-list, and the idea to me was, hey, these aren't doing good on their own, so we'll make an ensemble comic book so that way you'll be interested in their regular series. I liked Captain America on his own before he came from World War II, and once he came to modern, I didn't like him as much, and I really liked Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos, and S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., I wasn't as interested in. I still read it, but I really liked the maybe I'm on the outside of that, but I liked the World War II comic books. But anyways, so let's pop into let's start with the Eternals here. I'm rambling, I guess. The Eternals are originally a Jack Kirby comic book, and they are, the movies portraying them as kind of being the Avengers. They're not. They're just like one step below the Celestials. They're basically lowercase g gods. They're not as high on a pantheon, let's say, as, in my opinion, as the Asgardians or that kind of thing. But they are awfully close to that. So the concept is the Celestials go through the universe, I guess, now the multiverse, I don't know. So they go through the universe and they create life. And when they get bored with it, they destroy it. And so kind of the Celestials idea, the Celestials also, in creating life, they plant an egg for a new Celestial. I guess Celestials are mate sort of like pandas, not too often, and and so their species is falling apart. um, so the Eternals, and well, ultimately, the Celestials are the start of all mystical magic or other types of energy in the universe. So mutants are related to Celestials and Eternals to some degree. Inhumans are as well. Inhumans and so the human beings are experimentation by the Celestials to create advanced civilization, sorta. And the Eternals, their deal is they're here to protect that. Mostly they're there to protect it from the deviants. So then you can't talk about the Eternals without talking about the deviants. So the deviants are Eternals. We find that out later, but originally it was just like there. It's anytime you have a good guy, you have to have a bad guy. So it's Eternals are good guys, deviants are bad guys. As we get further along, you discover, Marvel's very good at making heroes and villains that are nuanced, that aren't just black and white, but instead multi-layers of gray. And so you discover actually the deviants are Eternals that are different. So kind of a well-known deviant would be Thanos, who is cousin to some of the Eternals that we're going to see in this movie. Now the weirder parts of this, I don't know that they're going to be able to cover this in the movie, but there's certain things that all Eternals have the ability to do. One is obviously they live quite long. That's for an eternal time, and of course in the comics they're at the dawn of civilization. They're at the dawn of Earth, actually, before there's civilization, and so and the Celestials have basically laid an egg. I don't know if you call it an egg, but they put something in the Earth, and so that once civilization gets to a certain level, then there like this cosmic energy convergence will happen, and then this egg will hatch, and there'll be a new Celestial. Okay, so that's the concept, right? And so these Eternals are to be here that whole time to mend the egg, and that's basically their job. But they don't necessarily totally know all the details there. They were created, they know that, by the Celestials. They have abilities that are different than everybody else, they know that. But the other things, they're not quite. It's not explained in the comic book, but more, I think they aren't told about it. So kind of imagine that, if you have if you call a cab to pick you up and drive you to the airport, the cab driver doesn't know the reason that you're driving to the airport. I mean, he maybe assumes, hey, we're going to the airport because you're going to fly, but it could be something else. Hey, I'm going to the airport to meet somebody. Who knows? So the cab driver doesn't know that. He just knows he's been paid to go from here to here, and that's kind of where the Celestials are, the Eternals are. They know that they're created to mend the earth, to pay attention to the earth and help push civilization forward, and more create this experimentation where people will have abilities. So all the mutants on Earth were created by Celestials, and actually Inhumans were created by Eternals. Inhumans were created also by Eternals, but Eternals on another planet. It's quite odd. So, but anyways, so all mutants have powers that stem from this experimentation on Earth, and basically the idea is the first primate that was turned into at the time we knew of Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons, but there's now that we know there's more nuances. There's a whole bunch of different levels, but the first primate that was turned into a bipedal human or human-like was done by these experiments. So we kind of jump around a bit in their timeline, like hey, here we are, we're making the first intelligent life here, and then they jump forward a little bit further, and here we are, making mutants or something, and then jump forward more, and we're in Babylon or we're in wherever. So I think the movie is going to skip some of that. I think the movie will probably show them in the beginnings of human evolution, but not having evolved them. I think they'll probably pop into somewhere like the Egyptian times or something like this, and kind of show how they interacted with humans and help guide them to some degree, and in the comics, some of the things that's tough to show besides that is all of the Eternals have some power sets that are the same. So, for instance, they're all a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. They all have some amount of telekinesis and that kind of thing. Watching the couple of previews I've seen, they really don't show that. And also, each Eternal has a subset of that power that is a little bit better. So, let's say, for instance, all of the Eternals are a little bit stronger. So if you want to compare it, you might say Captain America, although in the comics, Captain America's strength is that of the pinnacle of human possibility. So he doesn't have super strength per se, but instead has the abilities of, like, let's say, the strongest gymnast. And they kind of push that further out in the movie to make it more a little bit better, and they have in the comics. It depends on the writer and their idea of what Captain America can do. But definitely in the comics in the beginning, that was the idea. Hey, this guy is the pinnacle of human ability, but that doesn't mean he is stronger than the regular human. He has the same physiology as the rest of us. It's just been pushed to the max. So in this, instead, if you compare it, you would say that the Eternals, they're not as strong. The regular Eternal, they're not as strong as the Hulk, but they're stronger than Captain America. So somewhere in between the two, or which is a huge gap. But I'm just saying. But then you get to Gilgamesh, and that old boy is their tank, and he's a monster in the physical ability there, and so he's probably closer to the Incredible Hulk. And so, like I said, in between the Hulk are the rest of the Eternals, but this one Eternal, he's super strong, and things like that. So we'll see stuff like that where all the Eternals are faster than normal folks, but then one Eternal is super fast, fastest, and that kind of thing. And all the Eternals can fly, but one can really fly really fast and is the best flyer, and whatever. So so in order to keep us from getting confused, I think in the movie they kind of strip all that back. So not all of them are super fast, not all of them are super strong, although they may show that they have a little bit better than human abilities. Instead, they'll take that one thing that they're known for. In Gilgamesh, it's his strength and his physical prowess, and that's his power. And then they kind of get rid of the rest. I think that's how that'll be. Then also, in the comics, only one person can read people's or talk to the Eternals. I think that'll stay. And then when they all come together, it's like Captain Planet. I really think Captain Planet was stolen from the Eternals, but maybe not. I don't know. But they come together and they make what's called the World Mind, and they all have to join their powers together. By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet / World Mind, and so that being has significantly like the combination of all their powers and is able to do things. And if I remember right, there was some kind of a time limit how long the World Planet can exist or something. I don't know. And so World Mind. So I think we'll see. I don't think we'll be able to see that. I don't think that concept translates well. It would in Captain Planet. We would have Don Cheadle show up as Captain Planet, like the skit. That would be amazing, but that won't happen. So what they have Dane Whitman, and this is kind of an interesting thing. So they have Dane Whitman going to be there as the Black Knight. I don't think he will be the Black Knight, but probably some in credit will have him as being on the show as the Black Knight. Maybe he'll open a package that has his sword. I don't know. It's going to go over why. So what I think happens is the snap, and then the third snap has caused the baby celestial in the planet to start to come alive. And I think that's the basics behind all of this. And so I kind of think also this will be the Gaiman series to some degree. I think we'll have the beginning of the show is one of the Eternals dying and kind of trying to figure out why. And it may even have them not knowing that they're Eternals at the beginning of the movie because of one of their members wiping their minds. I don't know that yet, but that's what happened in the Gaiman series. And then them coming together and trying to face the fact that one of them died. Now, imagine, they're separated. Imagine the Beatles, great guys, great musicians, great, amazing ability to create this music, and then they separated because they just start butting heads, and they still continue to make good music separate and whatever. Imagine that over thousands of years. So here are these Eternals live forever, and after a while they just get on each other's nerves and they have to separate, and every now and again they come back together, and maybe they wipe each other's minds in order to allow that separation to happen. Maybe they don't, and stuff like that, and that happens in the comic series where they come together. There's something going on. Maybe the deviants show up and they beat them back, and then they kind of separate, go about their way. Maybe they stay together for 100 years or 200 years, and they leave for 1,000. Who knows? At first, they were pretty standoffish with humans, with the human race, and then it got to where they were. They kind of became de facto humans. You can only live with this new race, so in your mind, you're like, oh, those are monkeys, those are chimpanzees, and as they mature into a civilization, your opinion of them changes. Hey, you probably don't want to hang around with chimpanzees, but now these human beings, they're worth listening to. Maybe you like their art, maybe you like their music. I'm sure they were enamored of either the Beatles or the Stones. I like Beatles better, but whatever. and so as time went on, they embed themselves into human beings, and there's got to be some difficulties in that, kind of like vampires, where you've got to disappear from one country to another and go to different places. And I think that they may show that a bit in the show, where maybe they came together and defended I don't know, some civilization to keep them alive from the deviants, and then disappeared, and had to hide their powers and that kind of thing. So I kind of think that's what the movie's going to be about. So then, what if? So I liked the series. I didn't make a video because I actually told my kids. I told a couple of folks, as soon as the first one came out and they had Captain Carter, and that's what they were calling her instead of Captain America. Although in the comic series she does call herself Captain America because she spent so long in New York or whatever. But they called her Captain Carter. I said, oh, they're making the Exiles, and some of my friends here were disappointed, like the second or third thing where they weren't combined. I'm like, yeah, they're combined, you just don't know it. And there was some argument with that, and I says, no, they're making something called the Exiles. And so finally, I explained the Exiles is a great show, a great comic book, where I mean, the real concept is there was a mutant named Blink, and they made this mutant just to kill her in the comic book series. And Phalanx had shown up, and that's basically the species that Warlock is, and Magnus from New Mutants and from that series. And so the Phalanx have shown up, and they are taking over everything, but have discovered that they can't take over mutants because the mutant gene wasn't something they could take over, or something like this. Although it's a difficult thing because oftentimes Magnus and Warlock would take over the New Mutants. But let's pretend like we don't have about 30 years of history of doing this. But the idea was that, and so the real idea was to introduce different mutants. So Generation X comic series was created. I am apparently the Generation X, so it hit us good. And so they had things like they had mutants like Skin, who was a mutant that was basically Mr. Fantastic, and then they had Paige Guthrie, which is Cannonball's sister, and her ability was to she should have been called Skin. Her ability was she could pull her skin off, and she was called Husk. She could pull her skin off, and underneath that would be a different power. So if she wanted to become steel, she'd pull her skin off, and then boom, she's made out of steel. And magically, her clothes would come off with the skin. I don't know. It's a little bit fuzzy, right? And I haven't read this series in quite many years. I think this was in the mid 90s. And so Blink, her ability was teleport, and we know we already have teleporters. We have just a bunch of them, right? But I think maybe they just wanted a new teleporter. I don't know, but she could also throw her teleporting ability like a power, I don't know, thing. And so like a knife, she could throw energy blasts of sorts, but they were kind of the teleportal thing. And she didn't just blink in and out like Kurt does. Instead she would make a hole in stuff, like kind of like Lily Chana does, or maybe like Magic does. So and sort of the New Mutants had fallen out of the consciousness. So they made the X-Men, then they made the new X-Men. X-Men kind of got canceled, and then it had a resurgence. And when they had a resurgence, they're like, hey, let's make a new, because they reprinted the original ones. Then they made the new X-Men, giant-sized X-Men #1. And that was actually the first X-Men comic book that I personally purchased. And so then, they made New Mutants because X-Men started getting old, and then New Mutants became X-Force, and it was, they just weren't young anymore. Cannonball was old, and so they really, this comic series was kind of to create that again. Blink has been in TV. There was a TV show called The Gifted. They had Warpath. They had Blink. They had Sunspot. They had Polaris. Now they kind of ignored the fact that each of these are a whole different age of people. But let's pretend they're all the same age, and that's what they did. It's very loosely based on the comic books. So anyway, in this, they made Blink, and her ability was to teleport, and at the end of this comic series, she dies. And of all of the people who were introduced, the only one that was interesting, I don't want to say that, but that kind of is true, was Blink. And she was the main person in the story, so it was supposed to be really heartfelt when she dies, and it kind of is. But more people were like, hey, I like Blink. So they made a whole new comic series called Exiles. Exiles had Blink as one of the main characters, actually as the leader for a while. But it was the multiverse. So she's a Blink from some other universe. And they made her more important, and so you hop into this new series and you get into this multiverse, and some of it's silly, like you may have Howard the Duck. Well, I know they do oftentimes had Wolverine, a cartoon Wolverine, instead of the Wolverine from like a, I guess, comic book Wolverine. And so things like that. But one of the people that they had early on was Captain America, but as Peggy Carter was Captain America. And so it was quite interesting. And so as soon as they had that as the first one, I'm like, well, yeah. So we're talking about this Exiles. Everybody didn't understand what I was talking about. The next one came out, and folks were confused. And so I said, it's going to end up with them combining and fighting some multiversal attack. And that is what happened. So I did like that. I didn't like that they left Doctor Strange watching Killmonger and Ultron forever. That didn't seem very intelligent to me, because I lay odds that I don't know what we're going to call him, Doctor Strange, Evil Strange, I don't know. I think he's going to show up in the Doctor Strange movie, the Multiverse of Madness. I don't think he's going to show up in the Spider-Man movie. I think we have enough going on with Spider-Man. And so after Spider-Man, people are going to be like, that was crazy. That is the most crazy you can get into a movie. And then Doctor Strange is going to come out, and they're going to put Tannerite onto the craziness of Spider-Man, shoot the Tannerite, and just blow the crazy up. The Multiverse of Madness is going to be just insane. And I can't think of a single person that I would want to helm Insane more than Sam Raimi. I mean, if you've ever watched the I'm sure you've watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you might have a good idea of what that looks like, and hey, that's what we're going to get. But I would suggest you go back and watch the Ash movies, or even the last the television series they did. That's a level of crazy that you get with Sam Raimi. You get the portal that sucks in the car, and a guy going into medieval times and then making a hand so that way he gets to use a hand, but for most of the movie he's got a chainsaw for a hand. That's the crazy that you're going to get with this. You're going to have, I think you're going to, I'll make a top 10 video for that. I'm going to make a top 10 for the Eternals too, but you're going to get the you're gonna get the just batch stuff insane Doctor Strange that I read as a kid that I liked, where maybe one day we're talking about vampires, and then boom, we're talking about a plant creature that opens portals and has powers, and that for some reason will just let you walk through the portal, or maybe he won't, or he will kill you, and stuff like that. Just hey, my helper today is a Wong. Tomorrow it's a cow that walks upright. I don't know. And tomorrow it's a werewolf. Why not? It's just whatever you can think of. Doctor Strange, if you read the Doctor Strange comic books, it has happened. And so it wouldn't be surprising to me that it would happen here. Let's see. So I think Sam Raimi is the right guy for that. I think we're going to see some of those, if not all of them, well, except for Black Panther, but all of those in live action. So I can imagine us seeing Party Thor. I can imagine us seeing definitely that evil Doctor Strange. I hope we see Peggy Carter as Captain Carter. That would be pretty cool. And I would pay money to see Captain Carter and Captain America have that dance, even if it's a fist fight dance. So yeah, I do think we'll see a whole lot of that. I think we're going to get some America Chavez, which is a character that basically can punch stars and go through the multiverse. We'll probably see some of that. Maybe Blink will one day show up into the comics. Maybe others. So I think the Eternals is how we're going to get mutants into Marvel, into the MCU. I think mutants are already there. We did see Ursa Major, the great bear, the great drunk bear from Russia. And so I think we're going to see some more of that. We're going to get more information on that. I sure hope that we're going to see. So I like the character that plays the Red Guardian on the Black Widow movie. I didn't do a video on Black Widow movie. I was disappointed in the Black Widow movie. I'm still upset about it. So I haven't gotten my right mind to even talk about it. What they did to Taskmaster was a disservice, a great disservice, and somebody should be, not shot, but at least kicked for it. And so I saw a lot of people who did reviews. I went and watched them, and it's quite obvious there's a lot of people who are paid a lot of money to make videos about Marvel movies that are straight up liars. So if you say, I love that movie, you, sir, are a liar. But I like the Black Widow movie? Yeah, I liked it. Is it the top 10 Marvel movies? It's not even the bottom 10. It's closer to somewhere in the middle. It's not dark world crap, but it's also not in-game amazing. So you got something in the middle. It's a good movie. It's good enough to watch. If you're not a comic book fan, it probably is more passable. But I don't know. There's just a lot of just shoehorn crap, and I don't like what they did to Scarlett Johansson. I guess they've fixed all that now, and so whatever. But whatever. All right. Well, that's all I got. I don't know. I just wanted to chat about all these, and we'll make a top 10 for this Eternal movie before it comes out, maybe in the next week or two. Thanks all.